and the Panthers are all in on acquiring a number one wide receiver. If you don't believe me, here's NFL insider Jordan Schultz explaining just that.
The Panthers, according to sources, are in the market not only for a receiver, but a top-tier one. What this comes down to is twofold. Number one, they know they don't have enough weapons for Bryce Young. But number two, they believe so much in Bryce Young, the Panthers do, GM Scott Fitter, head coach Frank Reich, that they want to go all in, double down this season.
They love him so much that they want to go get him a number one wide receiver, according to Jordan Schultz. You had one. This is like one of my favorite jokes about streaming and how annoying the streaming. You got to go to 9 different streaming services to find the game you want to watch.
Yes.
One of the sarcastic jokes I make, sarcasm, may play with you, may not, is, you know what I want? I want all of my streaming services on one bundle, one payment, and then maybe put them all like on a number system where I can go up and down to each one and that way I can flip back and forth, and maybe there's a last button on the remote so I can go back to the last thing I was watching. I want all my streaming services lined up like that. And you realize that I'm just saying I want to go back to the days of cable.
Yeah.
Right? That's being connected. So I feel like the Panthers are kind of doing that, but they're not sarcastic. We are all in for a number one big play wide receiver that could help our young quarterback. Maybe one with 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons and somebody that's, come down with like a 60-yard touchdown to win the game as recently as last year from a backup or even a third-string quarterback. Now, where are we? And you realize they're just describing DJ Moore on the Panthers. And they traded DJ Moore away from the Panthers this past offseason. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have to. That's the part that gets me. They didn't have to. They could have kept him. They didn't. Fine. You made a bad decision. Now that you're trying to rectify it and go out and get your wide receiver, is it worth the premium you'd have to pay to go get it right now? Is it worth moving heaven and earth to trade for a number one wide receiver right now rather than this upcoming offseason when it would inherently be easier? There'd be free agency, there'd be draft, there'd be movement. I'm gonna give you some cold hard facts here. Every once in a while you need a cold glass of water to the face just to wake up.
Hit me.
The Panthers are 0-4. They play the Detroit Lions this upcoming week. If they lose to the Lions, which I don't think would be a big stretch, there have been 0 NFL teams to ever make the playoffs after starting 0-5. 0. Now, you're not mathematically eliminated technically, but you're close to it. So, moving assets from the future to now makes very little sense unless there is a very, very obvious way it saves Bryce Young. And like, if you think he is teetering on the brink of abandonment, if you think he is teetering on the brink of you're going to lose all faith in him, then you might go get a number one wide receiver to save him. Other than that, there is no reason. It's one of those fun to daydream about things, right? We actually talked about it yesterday on the show. When we were talking to the MLB Raleigh guy about how, they had plans for where a stadium might be. And I was like, oh, like when you go on Zillow and you just, type in your zip code, what's my budget? $5 million, right? I just want to go look. It's just fun to poke around. If you're just looking at the wide receiver market and you're saying like, hey, I wonder if Devontae Adams is upset with the Raiders, that's fun to do. T. Higgins, I bet you the Bengals wouldn't mind selling him. That's fun to do. What would it look like in our offense? Fun, but not plausible. Jamison Williams. Oh, look at that. Bryce Young's number one wide receiver from college. Let's link them back up like Burrow and Chase, like Tua and Waddle, like Hurts and Devontae Smith. Let's get the number one college wide receiver, the quarterback, put them together. It's fun to think about, but what are you going to give up? And here's the thing about bringing in a wide receiver right now. It'll be cheaper in the offseason. There'll be more options in the offseason. There'll be more teams willing to wheel and deal in the offseason. And since you're 0-4, you have no reason not to wait for the offseason. Last point. Wide receiver is what I call the most dependent position on the offense. What do I mean by that? You need the O-line to give your quarterback time to throw. You need the quarterback to make a good throw. You need other wide receivers to keep the secondary honest. You need all of that to work to get the wide receiver the ball. I don't think bringing in a wide receiver is going to solve all your problems.
It won't.
Yeah, I don't know why I said I think. I know bringing in a wide receiver won't solve all your problems. It's fun to think about and go nuts with the thoughts. Daydream all you want, and then come back to reality. Again, that cold glass of water to the face. Wake up. In the interest of getting both sides of the story, here's Frank Reich when asked about reports of a team going after a wide receiver.
This is the same answer for me all the time, every year I've ever been in this position. Like once we get in season, I just want the guys we got. You know what I mean? I'm happy with I love the guys we got. We got the guys we need to win. Scott's the that's why to me it makes sense to have the division of the GM and the head coach. Scott is always going to be working to do his job to make to initiate. He's certainly going to involve me in those decisions if something comes up, but those aren't things that I'm going to him initiating on. I'm not initiating those discussions with him. He's doing what he's doing, looking to do his job. I'm coaching the guys that we got, and I'm happy about the guys we got.
Frank Reich just did exactly what I want to do when I'm the assistant coach of my eventual son's youth sports. My dad, my entire life growing up, was the assistant coach on just about every team. Basketball, baseball. He was out there as the assistant coach. I look at it and I go, that's genius. Do you know why? Parent comes up, why isn't my kid playing? You know what you get to say? I'm just the assistant. Go talk to the head coach. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just the assistant. Head coach will be here next practice. You should talk to him or her. Like, that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm going to be the assistant coach because that's no responsibility. Frank Reich just assistant coached that whole responsibility. Do I want a new wide receiver? Well, listen, I'm just the coach. Let me put you in touch with the general manager. That's who those questions should be going to. When in actuality, guess what? The assistant coach and the head coach, they're in those conversations. They're having, like, listen, I'm definitely going to be deciding and being, like, when I'm the assistant coach, hey, maybe we should try this kid at this position. I'm there, but if a parent wants to ask me about it, you're going to have to go talk to the head coach.
I loved being an assistant coach, by the way.
So if Frank Reich, if you ask him about a trade, you're going to have to go talk to the GM. I'm just a lowly head coach, and the one that they brought in to turn the program around, that's just little old me, Frank Reich.